Will Daniel come to the festival? Will the festival push Daniel and Emma farther apart? Let's find out. Emma had always loved the festival, but this year she was especially excited because she would be attending it with Danielle. The festival was held in the village square, where stalls were set up selling all sorts of treats and handmade crafts. There was a stage for music and dancing, and lanterns were hung from the trees, creating a magical atmosphere as night fell. Emma and Daniel arrived together, and as they walked through the square, they were greeted by many familiar faces. The villagers welcomed Daniel warmly, inviting him to join in the festivities. Emma, look at that. Daniel pointed to a booth where a man was demonstrating how to make pottery. Have you ever tried that? Emma shook her head. No, but it looks like fun. Let's give it a try. They spent the next hour laughing and joking as they tried their hand at pottery. Daniel's pot turned out lopsided, while Emma's was too thin and cracked in the kiln, but they didn't care. The fun was in the experience and in doing something new together. Later, as the music began to play, Daniel turned to Emma with a grin. May I have this dance? Emma hesitated, feeling a little shy. I'm not much of a dancer. Neither am I, Daniel confessed, but I think we'll manage. Taking her hand, he led her to the dance floor. At first, they stumbled a bit, unsure of their steps, but soon they found a rhythm. The music was lively, and the joy of the festival seemed to sweep them up in its magic. Emma felt a lightness in her heart as they spun and twirled, laughing with pure happiness. As the dance ended, they found themselves breathless and giddy. Daniel looked at Emma, his eyes shining. This has been one of the best nights I've had in a long time. Emma smiled back, her cheeks flushed. Me too, Daniel. I'm so glad we came. They spent the rest of the evening exploring the festival, trying different foods, playing games, and enjoying each other's company. By the time the night was over, Emma felt like she was floating on air. She knew that her feelings for Daniel were growing stronger by the day, and she wondered if he felt the same way. The next day, Emma confided in her close friend Lily, who was one of the few people she trusted, with her deepest thoughts. I think I'm falling in love with him, Lily, Emma admitted as they sat in the garden sipping tea. Lily smiled knowingly. I've seen the way you two look at each other, Emma. It's obvious there's something special between you. But what if he doesn't feel the same? Emma asked, her voice tinged with worry. What if I'm just imagining it? Lily reached over and took Emma's hand. Emma, you're not imagining anything. Daniel cares about you. Anyone can see that. You just need to give it time. Let things unfold naturally. Emma nodded, feeling a little more reassured. I hope you're right, Lily. I've never felt this way about anyone before. Lily smiled. Love has a way of surprising us, Emma. Just be yourself and everything will fall into place. A few days later, the weather took a turn, and a heavy rainstorm settled over the village. The rain poured down in sheets, and the villagers stayed indoors, waiting for the storm to pass. Daniel, who was caught in the rain while returning from an errand, arrived at Emma's cottage, drenched and shivering. Daniel, you're soaked, Emma exclaimed as she opened the door. I know, I got caught in the downpour, Daniel replied with a sheepish grin. Come in, quickly, Emma urged, pulling him inside. Let me get you a towel. As Daniel dried off, Emma started a fire in the hearth to warm up the cottage. She made some hot tea and offered him a blanket. Thank you, Emma, Daniel said, wrapping the blanket around himself. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been here. Emma smiled. You would have been just fine, Daniel, but I'm glad you came. It's nice to have company on a day like this. They sat together by the fire, sipping tea and listening to the rain as it pattered against the windows. The warmth of the fire filled the room, creating a cozy atmosphere that made the storm outside feel distant and unimportant. For a while, they didn't speak, simply enjoying the quiet comfort of each other's presence. Emma couldn't help but steal glances at Daniel, noticing how at ease he seemed, despite the earlier chill. There was something so natural about being with him, as if they had known each other far longer than a few months. Eventually, Daniel broke the silence. "You know, Emma, I never imagined I'd find this kind of peace. Back in the city, everything was so fast, so hectic. But here, everything just slows down. It's like I can finally breathe." Emma nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. "That's why I love it here. Life in the village has a rhythm of its own, slow, steady, and full of little joys. I've always found comfort in that." Daniel looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "You're a big part of why I'm finding that peace, Emma. You've made this place feel like home for me." Emma's heart fluttered at his words. She wanted to believe that there was more behind his statement, that perhaps he felt the same way about her as she did about him. But she didn't want to assume anything, not until she was sure. "Daniel, Emma began, but she was interrupted by a sudden gust of wind that rattled the windows. The storm outside had grown fiercer, the rain now pounding against the house with renewed intensity. Daniel looked towards the window, then back at Emma. "Looks like the storm's not letting up anytime soon. I hope you don't mind if I stay a bit longer." Emma smiled, relieved that he wasn't planning to leave just yet. "Of course not. Stay as long as you like." They continued to talk, sharing stories about their pasts, their dreams for the future, and everything in between. As the evening wore on, Emma found herself opening up to Daniel in ways she hadn't with anyone else. She told him about her childhood in the village, her love for gardening, and her hope of finding someone to share her life with. Daniel listened intently, his gaze never leaving hers. "You deserve to find that kind of happiness, Emma. You have so much love to give, and anyone would be lucky to have you in their life." Emma blushed, feeling a warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the fire. "Thank you, Daniel. That means a lot to me." As they sat there, the storm raging outside, Emma felt a sense of contentment she hadn't known before. Being with Daniel felt right, like a piece of her life she hadn't realized was missing had finally fallen into place. She was falling in love with him, and though she wasn't sure how to tell him, she knew that this night had brought them closer than ever before. The days following the storm were filled with a new sense of anticipation for Emma. Every time she saw Daniel, her heart would skip a beat, and she found herself wondering if he felt the same way. She tried to push these thoughts aside, focusing on their growing friendship, but the feelings kept coming back, stronger than before. One sunny afternoon, about a week after the storm, Daniel invited Emma to join him for a walk. They strolled through the village, talking and laughing as they usually did, but there was a certain tension in the air, an unspoken feeling that neither of them could ignore. As they reached the riverbank, the place where they had first truly connected, Daniel turned to Emma, a serious look in his eyes. "Emma, there's something I've been wanting to tell you," he began, his voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. Emma's heart raced. She had a feeling she knew what was coming, but she didn't dare hope too much. "What is it, Daniel?" He took a deep breath, as if gathering his courage. "I've been thinking a lot about my life since I came here, about the things that really matter. And the more time I spend with you, the more I realize how important you've become to me. You're not just a friend, Emma. You're so much more than that." Emma's breath caught in her throat. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for, but also dreading in case it didn't turn out the way she hoped. "I care about you deeply, Emma," Daniel continued, his voice softening. "I've never felt this way about anyone before. I know, I'm falling in love with you." Emma's eyes filled with tears of happiness. This was what she had dreamed of, what she had longed for. "Oh, Daniel," she whispered. "I've been feeling the same way. I just didn't know how to tell you. I love you too." A look of relief and joy spread across Daniel's face as he stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "You've made me happier than I ever thought it could be, Emma. Being with you feels like everything I've been searching for." Emma felt the same. In Daniel's arms, she had found the love she had always hoped for, the kind that made life brighter and more beautiful. As they stood there by the river, surrounded by the peaceful beauty of the village, they knew that they had found something truly special in each other. Daniel gently pulled Emma into his embrace, and they shared a tender kiss, sealing the bond that had grown between them. It was a kiss full of promise of the love and happiness that awaited them in the days to come. After that day by the river, Emma and Daniel's relationship blossomed. They were no longer just friends, but partners in life, facing everything together. The villagers, who had long suspected that something was brewing between the two, were overjoyed to see them so happy. "Finally," Mrs. Higgins exclaimed when she saw them together in the village square one morning. "I knew you two were meant to be." Emma and Daniel laughed, grateful for the support and kindness of the people around them. They continued to spend their days working in the garden, exploring the village, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life in their small corner of the world. But their love wasn't without its challenges. There were times when Daniel still felt the pull of the city, when he missed the fast pace and the opportunities that had once seemed so important. Emma, too, had moments of doubt, wondering if she could truly make Daniel happy in the quiet life they shared. However, every time these doubts arose, they faced them together, talking openly about their feelings and reassuring each other of their love. They learned that love wasn't just about the easy moments, but also about facing challenges hand in hand, supporting each other through the difficult times. One winter, a particularly harsh snowstorm hit the village, cutting them off from the outside world for days. The roads were blocked and supplies were scarce, but instead of feeling anxious or afraid, Emma and Daniel made the best of the situation. They huddled together by the fire, telling stories, sharing memories, and making plans for the future. "This is what I want," Daniel said one evening as they sat together, the snow falling softly outside. "A life with you, no matter what, comes our way." Emma smiled, her heart full of love for the man beside her. "That's what I want too, Daniel. As long as we have each other, we can face anything." The storm eventually passed and life in the village returned to normal. But the experience had brought Emma and Daniel even closer, strengthening the bond that had begun on that sunny day by the river. As the years went by, their love continued to grow. They built a life together filled with joy, laughter, and the deep contentment that comes from knowing you found your true partner. They celebrated each other's successes, supported each other in times of need, and always made time for the simple moments that had first brought them together. And through it all, they never forgot the magic of that first confession by the river, the moment when they had realized that they were meant to be together. It was a love story that the villagers would talk about for years to come, a story of two people who found their way to each other in a quiet village and who built a life filled with love, happiness, and the warmth of true companionship. Emma and Daniel knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together, hand in hand, just as they always had.
The story ends here.
If you're interested in hearing about an ancient map that leads a boy to Serpent Island, where the path to treasure is filled with deadly obstacles, click the video here or follow the link in the description.